we are not rare. But before you leave, you will perceive the lore will be unlocked. You might be stalked by a Sasquatch or a ghost witch, possibly even a ghost that will boast about knowing the Ohio grassman or even the Michigan dogman. Werewolves hunt, poltergeists are up front, but in these backwoods folklore is unlocked.
Welcome back to Folklore Unlocked. I'm Austin, and like always, I'm joined by Ethan.
Yep, hello again, everyone.
And this week, we are taking a look at what's probably been covered and being to death, no pun intended, the Dyatlov Pass Incident. And it's an unknown event that resulted in the death of 9 Soviet hikers. So, sorry in advance for any mispronunciations of the names, even though me personally, and I'm guessing you have too, Ethan, have watched multiple videos, listened to other podcasts, talk about this incident many a times.
Correct.
And it happened on either February 1st or 2nd, 1959. And it was named after the leader of the hike, Igor Dyatlov, who, along with the others, was a grade 2 hiker, which was the second highest rank of hiking rank in the Soviet Union at the time. The rest of the group were Yuri Durashenko, Ludmila Dubinina, Georgy Krivonoshenko, Alexander Kolovatov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, Rustam Slobodin, Nikolai Dabo-Brignoles, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Yuri Yudin, who was the only surviving member due to him leaving the hike early due to illnesses that we'll get into a little later.
So, the early hike, they arrived at Ivdel via train on January 25th of 1959, and they took a truck to Vizhai, the last inhabited area before their hike. And then the hike began on January 27th. So, Yuri Yudin, like we said there, was the only one that survived, but he had rheumatism and a congenital heart defect and decided to turn back due to joint pain on January 28th. And prior to leaving, Dyatlov agreed to send a telegram upon returning to Versailles, which was expected on February 12th.
So, rheumatism, I think, is very closely related to arthritis, which would, affect the joints and cause the joint pain for Udine.
Mm.
And the search started, or at least started to pick up when February 12th came around with no messages. Initially, there was no concern due to delays of a couple of days being common for hikes in the mountains. But on February 20th, the families of the 9 hikers still on the hike demanded a search and rescue operation to be started. And the initial groups were made up of volunteers, with Army and police units joining later, with planes and helicopters coming in a little later than that.
Which, I mean, I understand. It's been like how long? How many days had it been since they were like from the 12th to the 20th was at least 8 days, so it was longer than 8 days without any information. So
Which, a week or so, okay, yeah, that's more than the couple of days they said of delay that was common. So, fair enough for getting at least a little concerned.
okay, so the findings. So searchers found the group's abandoned and severely damaged tent on February 26th at Kolat Schleichel, and the tent was cut from the inside. And then there were 9 sets of footprints were discovered with evidence of people wearing socks, a single shoe, or completely barefooted. This led to the edge of a nearby forest where they found the bodies of Krivolshenko and Doroshenko, both shoeless and only in underwear, under a Siberian pine. And then between the pine and the camp, they found the bodies of Dyatlov, Kolmogrov, and Slobodin. Uh, okay, these are the feet differences. Okay, 980 feet, 1,570, and 2,070 feet from the pine. And it took 4 months for the other 4 to be found. And then, found on May 4th under 13 feet of snow in a ravine 246 feet from the pine, Dubina was found wearing Krivoshenko's pants that were burned and torn, with their left foot and shin wrapped in a torn jacket.
So, yeah, very mysterious circumstances.
Which, just by that last sentence there, makes me almost think that possibly the pants have been caught on fire while they're in the tent, and then they ran out. But that doesn't explain why all of them were outside.
Exactly. And the investigation started after the first 5 bodies were discovered, and they found no injuries that would have led to the deaths. And they conclude that the first 5 all died from hypothermia, though Slobodin did have a small crack in his skull, though, like we said, it's not believed to have been fatal. Examinations of the 4 found in May discovered fatal injuries in 3 of them. The Bo Briganals had major skull damage, and Dubinina and Zolotaryov had severe chest fractures. According to Boris, not even going to attempt to say his last name, but if you're on YouTube, you can see his last name, said that the force required would be equivalent to have a car crash, and the final 4 also had tissue damage. So, like, their tongues were missing, eyes were missing, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Whenever it said tissue damage, I was imagining just like bruising, not really missing pieces.
Yeah, missing body parts.
Which, I mean, that could possibly be because of animals that came by and stuff like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, theoretically.
The potential theories for this. So, first, of course, is an avalanche. Then there is the Yeti, possibly. Military test, katabatic winds, infrasound, paradoxical undressing due to hypothermia, whereas basically people undress when they get really, really cold. Mansi or a local tribe attack, and then wildlife attack, or possibly a romantic encounter turned violent.
Which, initially, the investigation said they died from an unknown force, and then testing on some of the bodies were found to be somewhat radioactive. So that's where the military test comes in.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the exact wording for the unknown force was an unknown compelling force. So I don't know what that necessarily means. An unknown compelling force. That is just so vague.
Yeah, for probably reasons that we will never know.
I mean, this was the Soviet Union in the middle of the Cold War. So I think that's all the reason that we need for them for being vague. And then on to our thoughts, I do think it was most likely something that led them to dying of hypothermia, and 3 of them getting crushed by something similar to an avalanche, or a romantic encounter going awry. But I just don't know. It's just what's up with the radiation?
Yeah, that's my big thing. Okay, the radiation kind of throws me off a little bit. But I think it was probably an avalanche that probably hit their campsite, which caused them to leave the tents with only what they were wearing. Of course, socks, no shoes, possibly an underwear. And then also the chest fractures found on multiple of the victims, and also the head wounds and whatnot, does show that they could have possibly been crushed by something, possibly ice and snow. The paradoxical undressing is a little possible, I guess, because they were like not wearing anything, but doesn't explain the chest fractures, and also does not explain the radiation.
And yeah, that they had also, besides the missing, you know, tongues and eyes, had no like exterior injuries. Everything was an interior injury.
Well, about the only thing I can think of, like combining a few different theories, is possibly there was a military test, something to do with radiation, and it could have possibly maybe caused an avalanche. Maybe.
I mean, we are dealing with the Soviet Union, middle of the Cold War, so who knows what was going on.
Yeah.
But with that, I think that's all we've got for this week. Next week, we are going to take a look at the Mongolian death worm. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, drop us a like, comment, and subscribe. Drop us a follow if you're on Spotify, and drop us a comment. And we'll see you next week.
You might wake up beside Spearfinger with an extended visit from Jack the Ripper. But if you're lucky, it'll be an angel on that range hill of Louisiana. You might meet Marie Laveau or the Road at Folklore Unlocked, Austin and Ethan Concoct. Their theory of the eerie and unexplained around the world, sometimes even the underworld. The lore is locked behind secrets, but folklore is meant to be unlocked. The Sokoloo is haunting NC as well as Tennessee. There are many giants that might be clients of the Dark Watchers, who might have psychokinesis. And the phantom time hypothesis is like a phoenix coming back around again and again. The lays a strain on your brain. If you got more than two brain cells in you. Some believe McCartney's dead because they read into the Mandela effect, which is subject